evening. You're watching Beyond the Headline. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Now, while the government continues to firefight the anger against the Agneepath scheme, the question that is being addressed is, what are the employment opportunities for the 75% of Agniveers who don't get selected for a full-term job at the end of 4 years? Quick recap of the story here. Agneepath is a new recruitment scheme in the armed forces in which the guaranteed tenure is 4 years. At the end of this, 25% get absorbed for the entire 17 years, while the remaining 75% have to move on to other jobs. Now, the government has been consistently sweetening the deal for the 75% who don't have any full-length jobs guaranteed by announcing reservations in various government departments. Some BJP-ruled states have also come in and offered reservations in state police. Ministries have jumped in. So, for example, the sports ministry says it will look at a scheme to hire Agniveers as sports instructors in schools. The finance ministry wants public sector banks to give reservations. There was an announcement that there will be a reservation for Agniveers in the CAPF. But today there has been a startling development. Even as the central government is underlining the point that Agniveers won't want for jobs, corporate India has stepped in. The who's who of India Inc. has come out and supported the Agniveers scheme. Let me just take you through some of the top names. N. Chandrasekharan, Tata Sons chairman, has said that this is a very disciplined, trained workforce that will be available, and he recognizes the potential of Agniveers and welcomes the chance to hire them. Harsh Goenka of the RPG Group too welcomed the opportunity, saying, I do hope other corporates will also join us and take this pledge and assure our youths of a future. Anand Mahendra went on to tweet, and he really started off the thread of tweets today by saying he's saddened by the violence around the program. When the scheme was mooted last year, I stated and I repeat, the discipline and skills Agniveers gain will make them eminently employable. The Mahindra Group welcomes the opportunity to recruit such trained, capable young people. Sudarshan Venu, MD TVS Motors, said the Agneepath scheme will have a significant positive impact on society and contribute greatly to nation building. Agniveers will play a key role in furthering economic growth and strengthening society in the coming years. Sanjeev Bhikchandani, co-founder of InfoEdge, also chimed in and said Agniveers, who are barely in their early mid-20s, will be trained and disciplined but not typecast and pigeonholed into narrow roles in the private sector. Sajan Jindal, chairman JSW Group, also said Agneepath will create a disciplined talent pool. So a lot of voices there saying that, corporate India will have a place for Agniveers. But what really will the Agniveers do in the corporate sector? How feasible are these promises? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by one of the iconic voices from India Inc. who's come in support of the Agneepath scheme. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Executive Chairperson of Biocon, is joining us now on the show. Ms. Shaw, thank you so much for speaking with us. Now, when you say that Agniveers will have an advantage in the private sector over others, what exactly do you mean, Ms. Shaw? How will they have this advantage?
Look, I think most industries look for some level of training when they hire people into their organizations. And I personally believe that army training is extremely valuable because such people are very disciplined, they are very good project managers, and they can be part of project teams in a very big way, because I think all companies are looking at trained, disciplined personnel, and what better place than the army to provide this.
Training and discipline are very broad sort of, indicators that these people will have. But in a 4-year armed forces tenure, one would assume that Agniveers will pick up specific skills which are useful in the armed forces. Will they necessarily be useful in the private sector? For example, in your company, in what departments would you hire these Agniveers?
No, I don't agree with you, Tamanna. It is not just physical combat that they're trained on. They are trained on how do you basically, use your skills to basically dismantle or assemble, any kind of ammunition or cars or trucks or whatever they are dealing with. And I think they are also told how to do it in a very systematic way. So the training that you get in an army is very different to the kind of training that you get elsewhere. And that's why I believe that many of us actually hire a large number of ex-service people so that, we get these disciplined people.
No, so in what areas, and if you can just share some more details, in which areas do you hire these ex-service people? How many have you hired right now? And in what departments specifically?
So I think that we do a lot of administrative jobs where we take on, ex-servicemen. We also hire them for project management teams. And we, of course, do have ex-servicemen who are heading security services for us. So a large number of jobs. I mean, it's not just one type of job.
The other interesting aspect is that, we've had so many voices from corporate India come out today and talk about placement of Agniveers. You're, of course, one of them, and this is happening in the middle of this huge controversy. Ma'am, I want to ask you very frankly and upfront today, what is the context to this? What's the story behind the scenes? Was there any sort of message or nudge that came in that corporate India should come out and stand with this scheme?
Let me categorically said that we have done it on our own. There has been no nudge to corporate India. I personally believe that this is a very, very innovative army reform or armed forces reforms that the government is undertaking. And I'm willing to support it because I think it's good for the country and good for employment opportunities for such people who are being recruited under the scheme. So let me be very emphatic. None of us have got nudges, at least not me.
So in that case, why the resistance, ma'am, from corporate India when it comes to something like reservation in the private sector for people from that particular state? That's something that state governments across party lines have been trying to push down the throat of India Inc. And the response has been very different.
But this is, I'm sorry, Tamanna, let me stop you right there. Please do not confuse reservation with recruiting such people who I personally believe have an advantage in the recruitment process. So I'm just trying to tell you, like for like, if I have an army trained person and someone who's not trained in the army, like for like, I would choose the army person. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So I really believe that it's not a question of reservation. It is a question of capability and competence that I think will be provided to these young men and women who I think will get a good employment opportunity thereafter.
No, so now let me come to the point that you made earlier, where you said that we already absorb a large number of ex-servicemen in different, parts of companies, etc. But ma'am, they are in a different age category because right now those who are retiring are maybe in their early to mid-30s. They've completed their 15, 17-year tenure after joining in at 17, 18, and then they come out and look for private jobs. What we're talking about in the Agniveer case will be 24, 25-year-olds. Will they be as capable? Will you have to train them all over again?
That's better. That's even better for us. I would love to have young army trained people in our workforce.
So let me come to the protests, because one point behind the protests is that this is an indication of the employment problem in India, where an armed forces or a government-backed job is seen as the ultimate security. That's why we have so many vying for that kind of a position. Can that level of comfort be replaced with a private sector job, which might pay you more but doesn't guarantee you lifelong employment?
Well, it is unsustainable to have a guaranteed lifelong employment where the government is the only employer of such large numbers. I think if you develop an economy based on that, it will not be sustainable. I think the private sector is the one that has to provide employment. And the public service can only, the public sector can only provide a certain number of jobs, but the private sector has to provide a large number of such jobs. And when I talk about public sector, I don't mean public sector, enterprises. I think they're talking about government jobs, within the established government services. And that's where they're not finding the job opportunities, but I think they should look elsewhere.
So let me come back to that point. And I mentioned it a bit with reservation. You didn't like that, ma'am. But with all of the overwhelming support coming in from India Inc. and top corporate voices, will these companies come in, get together and give some sort of guarantee on how many jobs can be given to Agniveers and where they will be absorbed?
Look, I think, Tamanna, we always adopt this kind of an approach to any of these issues, which is absolutely wrong. I think young men and women who join the Agneepath scheme should have confidence in the army system to instill and build capabilities and competence with which they can actually go out confidently and get jobs which will actually give them good career paths. That is the way I look at it. And I also believe that under the Agneepath scheme, the government, the armed forces ought to have a placement cell which can actually help these young men and women who can to find good placements, whether it is in the public sector or the private sector.
All right. Thank you for your time. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw there, talking about how India Inc. has come out and backed the Agniveers scheme. Thank you, ma'am, for speaking with us. I'm joined now by Tehseen Poonawala, political analyst, and Ratan Sharda, author, to speak more on this. Welcome to both of you. Tehseen, you have today questioned India Inc.'s backing of the Agniveers scheme and talked about where these people will really fit in. Don't you think it's great that India Inc. has come out and so vocally talked about how people who have been trained under the Agniveers scheme are inherently more employable because they have discipline and all of those other skill sets?
Thank you so much for having me on your show. Good evening to Ratan Sharda ji and good evening to all your viewers. Namaskar. Yes, I have taken a sarcastic dig at the India Inc. because of two factual reasons that I would like to put out in front of your viewers. While I heard Ms. Shaw speaking right now to you live, this is a fact that the placement for ex-servicemen in corporate India is less than 2%, less than 2%. Now, the average age, I'm talking about the average age of people who join the army in a full-term service of leaving the army is about 35, 36, which is, highly employable, young, disciplined, well-trained people. Why is India Inc. not recruiting them? Number two, this is where my problem is with India Inc. Their children, or children, say, of the Honorable Home Minister Amit Shah ji, or Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan ji, they don't join the armed forces or Agnipath or any of these. They go abroad, study, go to Dubai and take part in IPL. But here, where the poor are joining the army, they're playing with their future. Why is India Inc. not giving a reservation, a guarantee, saying, look, these are the people we'll take in, this is a quota that we today, and this is a minimum salary that we'll give. They are not putting their money where their mouth is. And that is where I have a problem with the hypocrisy. Every corporate today who has promised job reservations hasn't put their money where their mouth is. All of their children. But
Tehseen, no, I'll get Ratan to respond. But this point, I get your point about whether they will be actually giving reservations or not, or will they put their money where their mouth is. I asked Kiran that question. But this point of what do their children do? No.
Sorry, did she answer that question?
She said it's the wrong outlook.
Exactly.
She's saying it's the wrong outlook. No, but 1 minute. I'm making another point. This point you're making about what their children do, how is that relevant to the debate, Tehseen? How is that relevant to the debate? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why that point is a little illogical. Because their kids might not want to go to the armed forces. You're talking about people who want to join Agnipath, want to join the armed forces, and then what next for them? So the context is completely different.
Let me reverse it. Those who want to join the armed forces, want to serve their entire life serving the country. Why are you kicking them out in 4 years? Only because the government is on record saying that we want to save the pension. The pension bill is very high. Do you know that 47% plus of the pension of the armed forces is civilians in the Ministry of Defense? Cut down on the advertising wing of the Honorable Prime Minister, the money will be made available. So that is what I'm trying to say. Put your money where your mouth is. And I agree, the army gives you disciplined people. Why don't these people send their children to the army? They won't send their children to the army.
Again, but it's their wish. It's everyone's individual choice where they want to go. 1 minute. Ratan Sharda coming in on this point. Now, I asked Ms. Shaw also this question. What exactly will these people do? Right now, you've seen a slew of top voices from India Inc. come out and say that we back this. But how practical really are these promises when it comes to translating into jobs? We already know that private sector jobs are just not enough for the general population.
See, first, I don't like the handling of the people in the name of some about what the daughter is doing. I could go and question any family, including Mr. Poonawala's family. That's not the right thing. We know Chief Minister of Himachal, his daughter. Let's not get, because every politician, every businessman, every armed forces person, even armed forces person in a total. So that's a very in that direction, mocking the whole scheme, coming to what people do.
Mr. Sharda, your voice is getting cut. Your voice is getting cut. I'm going to ask them to fix it.
You have not used phone. You need to use phone. You have used directly the
No,
Skype,
now this is better. Whatever you've done now is better. Can I just request you to repeat your first point? Because I don't think we got
what
all
I
of
said.
Yeah.
It's very vicious and vacuous to talk about what somebody's children do, because that is true of every politician, every businessman, even armed forces. Even their children may not go to our army. So that is very wrong way of putting the entire debate. You're trying to just hijack the debate and insult somebody on an issue which doesn't at all talk about what are the real issues. You talked of unemployment, how much corporate people give. You are talking of retired people at the age of 60 who go to corporate, where such a senior person's options are very limited. But when a young person goes at the age of 21, he or she has every option of getting trained in different jobs, having a very good disciplined life for 4 years, where they get dedicated to any particular job given to them, and also ready to do any kind of job that is offered to them, including getting trained in technology, getting trained in any other job. Any apprentice who has done 4 years a job would be worth his weight in gold, because as a person who has employed many people, who has interviewed many people, I would find any disciplined person any day better than somebody with BA, MA who doesn't know how to talk, doesn't know how to make one sentence, doesn't know the difference between multimeter and altimeter. That is a condition today. If you have seen the report of people who are employable, you have seen reports where majority of the people are not even employable. That is the kind of education we are giving. That's a different matter.
Yeah, but Mr. Sharda, just to counter there, just a counter question there, sir.
That is very ripe age when they can mold themselves for any job.
No, that might be at maybe 18, 19, at 24, 25, is discipline going to be enough when they have spent the last 4-5 years doing something else entirely? Remember, they're training to work in the armed forces.
Everybody has adopted different lives. I have adopted different lives. I have been to various businesses. I have been to various professions. Everybody adjusts. Who has not adjusted? When you want to do something in life, your urge is there, your discipline is there, you will change. Somebody changes channel, somebody changes job, somebody changes entire profile.
Yeah, but is this a choice? Is this a choice of change?
I became a writer.
Okay.
So what?
Okay, but that was your choice. Okay, Tehseen Poonawala wants to come.
That is also choice of person. Nobody is forcing anybody on Agneepath. Remember.
But
nobody's forcing anybody on Agneepath.
Okay.
Can I make my point?
50,000 jobs.
Can I make my point, please?
Armed forces. They are free to go where they were going earlier on.
May I make my point, please?
Okay, so the guarantee is gone. If you don't find it attractive right now, don't join Agneepath. Don't apply for Agneepath. That's what he's saying. Yes, Tehseen.
Yes. Except where Mr. Sharda is wrong is, those who want to apply for the Indian Army, for the last 2.5 years, there's been no recruitment in the Indian Army. So 2 lakh positions are already lying vacant. Now let's come to India Inc. because that's the moot point of your debate today. In India Inc. today, our unemployment, and I'm quoting Times of India's sister concern, Economic Times, the sister group of yours, says unemployment is the highest in 45 years in our country. Why is India Inc. not employing people today? Number 2, for the first time, our economy is contracting. Again, I'm quoting Times of India. Now, the fact of the matter is not just in the armed forces, in the central government, where they say that we'll have employment, There's 28 lakh vacancies. Why have you not filled those up? Let me give you one data for your viewers to understand what the government is trying to do. 37,000 in this first batch of Agniveers will leave this in the 75% quota. 37,000 will leave. Ms. Shaw or none of the corporates who have come on your show otherwise have given any guarantee. So that's out. Now the central government has given a guarantee in paramilitary. Do you know the total recruitment in paramilitary every year is 13,000? Out of 13,000, the central government has a 10% reservation, which is 1,300. Where do the rest go? And these are people who want to serve the country for the rest of their lives. So why are you playing with the future of those who want to serve the country? That is the moot question. The moot question isn't that you don't have jobs. If you had jobs to give, India wouldn't be facing the unemployment crisis that it's facing. 45-year high unemployment crisis. That's the question nobody's answering.
No, but
put your money where your mouth is.
No, but in any case, Tehseen, if you listen to what Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw was also saying, India Inc. or Agneepath scheme is not going to solve the employment crisis in total in any case. That's a bigger question. That's a bigger question. So why has the responsibility now fallen on India Inc. suddenly to absorb all of them?
It hasn't. They've come out and said we will absorb them. And therefore the question is being raised. Either you give a guarantee, you give a fixed guarantee, and you answer why you haven't absorbed other people so far when your track record of absorbing people who are ex-servicemen as of today is less than 2%. Less than 2%. Therefore that question will be asked. Nobody forced them to tweet that. Number two. It's some kind of a surprise that all these corporates came and tweeted at one point, but the question is being asked of the government. When the government said, look, we are guaranteeing you a job, the question is asked when there were 2 lakh jobs already vacant, why didn't you guarantee them there? That is where the questions are being asked.
Okay, so Ratan Chadha, let me come to you on the question of the guaranteed portion of it in government's job, and we are playing those graphics out also on our screen. In department after department, you find that the jobs reserved for ex-servicemen are barely filled. It's filled of less than 1 to 2%. Why is that, sir? Does that now not raise a question mark on the promises being made today?
Am I defending in any way what jobs are not filled? I am not. The government has said we'll fill up 1 million jobs in the coming years. That is the current government position. For whatever reason, it should be filled. Am I questioning that? The question is, what about those 40,000 people who are going into the Agneepath now? After 4 years, what is the economic condition? We do not know. After 4 years, whether the economy will boom, most probably it will. So what are we talking about? EPF for data says there has been continuous employment increase. More people have got jobs in the last 4 years than earlier on. Despite that, you will keep on quoting some figures and they should be occupied. The chart issue is very welcome. You should show that. And government has accepted when they say you give 1 million jobs, it means government accepted that there has been a vacancy and will fulfill it. That is the job of every state government. State government jobs are lying vacant. State police jobs are lying vacant. Because of the budget constraint, because of COVID has not been fulfilled, they should be fulfilled. Where is the question?
Okay, let me ask a different question, Mr. Sharda, and this is really one that I have been wondering. Amidst all of these job offers, recruitment offers, and all of this talk about how Agniveers will be well-trained, well-disciplined, my question is, what is in it for the armed forces? Why will they spend 4 years training a bulk of 75% of the people they recruit not to take them on and to make them ready for employment elsewhere? How does that work in the favor of the armed forces? Is this a good deal for the armed forces?
Don't you think that armed forces people who made the policy? This policy was advocated by the Kargil Commission. It was advocated by Sekatkar Commission. Those are people who have made the policy. You call them on the interview. We civilians cannot say what is the plan. Plan is to have a younger age of the forces, reduce the average of the forces, and get people active and get more people involved. The new state-of-art kind of technology wars that are being fought. The decision given by is all military officers. Am I going to become an expert on the army? No, I don't claim to be expert on army, nor would I like to be.
Okay, so you're not tackling that question. That's fine.
May I respond to that?
Yes.
Look, your question is actually bang on, Tamanna, and thank you for that question. It's very important. I want your viewers to know via you that the age to join the army, whether to the regular process, the old process which Mr. Modi stopped now, or this new process is anyway 17 and a half. So it is not the age of the army that they're getting down. What they are bringing down, or what they claim to bring down, is the pension. And I again repeat, 47% of the pension is civilians. All Mr. Modi has to do is, if he wants to stop spending money on frivolous things like his advertisements, we have enough budget for the army, but he cannot do that. Now there's another point being made, which Mr. Sharda made. Owing to COVID, Mr. Modi could not recruit 2 lakh people in the army for the last 2.5 years. But owing to COVID, Mr. Modi did rallies in West Bengal. He did rallies in Uttar Pradesh. He was all over the country. He bought himself 2 new planes.
Now you're departing from the path of logic. I mean, you're free to politically make any statements, but just think about whether that makes any sense.
May I just ask you one thing? If Mr. Modi can do rallies, buy himself new planes and travel the world, why couldn't you have recruitment in the army? Is the Indian army not important? 2 lakh people
I don't know if they are the same things. Recruitment was stopped because of COVID-19 and because of the rules that were put in there. But are we not digressing from the question that we are trying to discuss today, unless we've run out of things to say on it?
He should carry a rallies allowed. Shift to the other countries.
No. But how? That's a false equivalence. They're saying that's a false equivalence. The question is, what the real question today is whether the armed forces should be spending 4 years training 75% of the people they recruit to make them ready, apparently for great private sector jobs. Is skill development not the purview of the central government? Is it the purview of the army?
One second, sir. She's asked me
no, one by one, please. One by one. Otherwise, no one will be able to understand. Let Mr. Sharda respond first, and then I'll come to you. Yes, Mr. Sharda.
Are you saying that short commission is something unique that India has found? It is there in large countries, small countries. It's the way of training the people, creating a very strong core of disciplined citizens, which can be used in any circumstances, which can be useful to the country, and every country has it. Are we doing something unique? Are we creating some private army or something that you're objecting to it? You're opening new avenues. People go for apprentice, they join any company for 2,000, 5,000 rupees, work as apprentice for 2 years, 3 years, and come back to the main line.
But Mr. Sharda, I would buy that argument if the process before was to hire only that 25% number, and now you're adding on an extra 75% only for 4 years. It's the reverse. That's why the anger. Exactly. Out of the, say, 50,000 people that you were hiring every year, now 75% don't have a fixed job. It's not the other way around.
There was no Agniveers. Where would they go?
No, they had full service. They had full service, right? You were retaining all 100%.
The requirement of the employment, full service still not. Have they refused? They are saying that stop full service. No military in the world can have a military made of only temporary people. Cannot have. The number being commissioned now is just 3% of the total forces strength. Do you believe that it will become 90%? I don't know whether you people have studied it or not. Whether you understand the implication of what you people are saying.
No. Mr. Sharda, I think you are not understanding what I am saying. I'm saying that the scheme has changed. The scheme has changed where you would get a full service recruitment to now only 25%.
Additional to what is the original scheme.
Yeah, so that is the change that people are protesting. What we're discussing today, I hope you've understood what I'm saying. What we're discussing today is whether all of these offers for the 75% can really materialize. Can this training of 4 years in the armed services make you fit and apt for a job elsewhere, especially in the private sector?
Are you saying that we should not try anything new? We should let the things just rot the way they are. We will not do any reform. We will not do anything because we don't know what will happen.
No, that's a completely different question. Nobody's saying you should not try anything new. We have to see how this actually works out. I'm going to wrap it here, but last word to you, Tehseen, because I promised you a response, and please make it quick. Last word to you. Do you think we should not at least try this out and see what happens? And I know you've been poo-pooing this question of the pension bill, but you know as well as I do that's a very serious fiscal consideration which has to be addressed.
And the army has Tamanna clearly said
now it's about my chance.
Now Tehseen's turn. Tehseen's turn now.
Let's have some decorum. We're talking about the army. So he should reduce his advertisements, but let me come to a more serious thing. Look, here's the most pertinent point. Is the Agneepath scheme a training ground for urban clap? as Kiraish Vijayvargiya said, that after they finish Agniveers, they'll become chowkidars in the BJP headquarters, or Mr. Krishna Reddy said they'll become barbers. Is this a training clap for urban clap? I mean, what are we talking about? This is the Indian Army. We are talking about people who want to lay down their lives for our country, and the vision of this government is after they finish 4 years of training, 3 years actually, because 6 months goes in training and 3 months in holidays, etc. After 3 years, we recruit them as barbers, as watchmen in the BJP office. Is this the vision of the government, to reduce pension? What kind of a logic is this government offering?
You cannot make just 1 or 2 people outpouring as a government policy. I'm sorry.
So the corporates also not giving a guarantee. The government is
no, why will corporates give a guarantee? I mean, tomorrow if reservation in the private sector is enforced, you will be the first one protesting it, Tehseen.
Run down the entire scheme.
Yeah. I'm not running down the scheme. I'm running down that you're playing with the future of the army of this country. You are saying,
I don't believe.
I think I should wrap this with an important question. I think I should wrap this with an important question. And I thank you, Tehseen, Poonawalla and Ratan Sharda, for your time. The question is, should the government have to guarantee jobs? And can the government guarantee jobs to any section of society, even if it's the Agniveers? That's an important question to mull over as we wrap this leg of the debate. But